Introducing YouTube memberships, a fun way to support the channel while getting some exclusive perks. Click the join button to become a member now and get benefits like badges next to your name on videos, behind-the-scenes photos, advantages during the live trivia game, discounts on merchandise, private one-on-one video chats, the ability to request future video topics, and exclusive 8 to 10 minute videos on the history of the NFL. And now, on with our feature presentation. October 29th, 2023. It's week 8 of the NFL season, and we've got a rivalry battle on our hands in the battle for the New York metropolitan area between the New York Jets and the New York Giants. For the main subject in our story, the Giants, to say that this is a big game for them would be putting it lightly. Through the first 7 weeks of the season, they've been playing admittedly awful football, sitting at 2-5 and having an offense that, at times, makes you want to poke your eyes out, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. However, despite all of that, because the bottom of the NFC is a complete dumpster fire, they actually have a chance to make the playoffs if they can pull off the win in front of their home fans. Win this game and improve to 3-5, and especially with a stretch of games coming up, including teams struggling to do anything right now like the Raiders, Commanders, Patriots, and Packers, you put yourself in position to possibly go on a run and have a shot at making it back to the playoffs. But you have to win this one, no questions asked. A 2-6 record near the midway point is basically a death sentence. And the good news for the Giants is that, despite losing quarterback Tyrod Taylor with an injury midway through the contest, and despite this game being a disgrace to the sport, seeing as the first half had 15 punts, and seeing as the Giants did something almost unheard of by finishing the day with negative net passing yards, somehow, despite being led by Tommy DeVito for most of the contest at quarterback, the Giants lead this one 10-7 with 1:26 left after the Jets turn it over on downs. One first down ends the game. One first down, and you win your second straight and claim victory over your in-state and inter-conference rival. And after 3 straight runs by Saquon Barkley to pick up 9 yards, the Giants are faced with 4th and 1 at the Jets' 17-yard line. It's simple here. Get the first down, get 1 measly yard, not even, and the game is over. All you've got to do is get 1 yard here, and you win the ball game. And you're sending out the field goal unit. You're sending out the field goal unit. But your kicker is Graham Gano. He's injured. He needs surgery. He can't really kick all that well right now. He stinks right now. In fact, he missed earlier in the game. You do realize you need 1 yard and you can win the game, right? 1 yard. And you're going to send out your injured, terrible kicker to try and keep the game alive in a best-case scenario? I really don't agree with this one at all. Brian Dable, you better know what you're doing here.
Kick is good. Jets would have to score a touchdown. Gano's kick is no good!
Let me guess. The Giants somehow choked this one away. Do I even need to ask how this game ends?
Kick on the way, and it is good!
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something to look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something to look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there was no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the minds of New York Giants head coach Brian Dable. This man is speed running a downfall from AP Coach of the Year. I mean, literally, this man led the Giants to the playoffs last year against all odds and was named the top coach of the year. And now, through the first half of the season, his decision-making leaves a lot to be questioned and has people wondering just how hot his seat is. Not that I think it's in any danger, but just the fact that this conversation isn't out of the realm of possibility is crazy to think about. He's been on this show before. I talked about a really dumb decision he made last year in a game that you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. But this one was way worse. This one was a million times worse, because Dable's stupidity cost his team the game here. So with that being said, let's take a look at why not going for it here, and instead trying a field goal that would not even end the game if you got it, is a really bad idea. And before I go any further, I just want to emphasize that in a normal situation, I don't have a problem with this. Really, I don't. If this was someone like Brandon Aubrey or Justin Tucker or Harrison Butker as the kicker, I'm not going to criticize the decision, even if it doesn't work out. If you've got an automatic kicker in good weather, and you're playing an offense this poor, I have no problem saying, you know what? We're going to kick the field goal here. And now, we dare you to drive the length of the field and get a touchdown in under 30 seconds. If you can do that, fair play. Be my guest. Trust me, if that was the case, then I have no problem with it. And we're not even having this discussion if this was an automatic kick with an automatic kicker that, barring anything absurd, has no shot at missing and failing. However, with Graham Gano, as Brian Dable absolutely should have realized, this was not the case for a few reasons. Number one, your kicker is literally injured. This was not a healthy kicker that we were dealing with here. This was a guy who has an injured knee, which seems kind of important when you're a freaking kicker, seeing as you need your lower body in order to be able to succeed. And this isn't a minor injury or anything like that. This is an injury that is going to require surgery once the season is done, and he's fighting through pain right now. So instead of trusting your team to get 1 yard and go for it, especially since every single time you faced a 2nd and 1 and a 3rd and 1 during the game, you converted, you're trusting a kicker who would not even be able to win the game at this moment, who is injured and can barely function as it is, and probably should not even be playing if he needs surgery, which is a whole other conversation. Number two, Graham Gano has been absolutely terrible this season, probably because of the injury. This is not a 35-yard field goal attempt with a really good kicker where it should be automatic. This is a 35-yard field goal attempt where you're playing Russian roulette. On kicks from 30-plus yards this season, entering this kick, Gano was a whopping 9 for 14, converting a mere 64.2% of his kicks. That is absolutely terrible. You cannot be kicking under 65% from 30-plus yards in this league. You just can't be. And yet, that's what was happening with Gano on the season. The league average from that spot, minus Gano, is somewhere around 82%. So it's more likely than not that you're going to make that kick. But with Gano, it is not a gimme whatsoever. It is far from an automatic kick. You are rolling the dice here. And honestly, your odds might be better at getting a yard than trusting Gano to hit a kick from 30-plus yards out when he's injured and has not been good all season, especially when the weather has been atrocious throughout the day, making conditions to kick the ball in absolutely terrible, and especially when Gano missed a kick earlier in the day. Again, I cannot stress this enough. If this was a healthy and a good kicker in good weather, this becomes an entirely different conversation. But the fact that it wasn't, it really doesn't make any sense. This seems really stupid because of the lack of skill set available at your disposal. So with the odds of getting 1 yard on the plate pretty much the same, if not better than the odds of an injured kicker who entered the week as the 30th ranked kicker in the league by percentage out of 32 kickers, and whose percentage went down before this attempt because he missed one earlier in the game, let's look at the risk and reward of the two options at hand. Option 1 is to do what just about everyone would have done in that spot, and that is to go for it. If it works, congratulations, you won the game. All you need is one measly yard on a day when your franchise running back, Saquon Barkley, had 128 yards rushing, and the game is over. No questions asked. The Jets had no timeouts. It's under 2 minutes, and you win, end of story. And for the most part, especially when it's 1 yard, and especially when it's deep in opposing territory, if you have a chance to win the game right then and there, and the reward for a play working is that you win it, you take that every single time. The risk is that if it doesn't work, and you're stuffed, you don't get the first down, and the Jets get the ball back. Well, as much as that stinks, assuming it's a gain of 0, because I can't see why it wouldn't be, the Jets get the ball at the 17-yard line, and have to drive roughly 40 yards to get it to field goal range. As for the second option, which was to kick the field goal, which again, is not a chip shot by any means because of how bad and how injured your kicker is, and because of every other circumstance under the sun, let's look at the risk and reward of that. The reward is that it's still a one-possession game. You didn't win it. Now, are the odds of the Jets win the game high? Absolutely not. Again, make this kick, and I'm not putting my money on Zach Wilson to drive 80 or so yards in 25 seconds with no timeouts. Nor is any sane person going to. Having said that, you didn't win the game. If you get the first down, the winning percentage is at 100%. If you kick the field goal and get it, your winning percentage, while super high, is not at 100%. Crazier things have happened. As for what happens if you miss the field goal, now, because it's at the spot of the ball where the ball was held and not at the line of scrimmage, the Jets are getting the ball at the 25-yard line and have to drive roughly 30 yards to get it to field goal range. The difference between the 17-yard line and the 25-yard line, especially with Wilson at quarterback on the other side, might be one additional play. That is a fairly substantial difference. 3 plays, each getting 12 yards from the 17-yard line, get the Jets to the 47, which would be a really difficult, almost impossible 65-yard field goal. You probably have to try a Hail Mary at that point. 3 plays, each getting 12 yards from the 25-yard line, gets the Jets to the 39-yard line, which is a makeable field goal for a guy like Greg Zuerlein. Those 8 yards are a huge difference. And again, I cannot stress this enough. This kick was in no way whatsoever a gimme, which is what Brian Daboll failed to realize based on everything at hand. So let me get this straight. When it comes to going for it or kicking the field goal, the best case scenario is better in the option where you go for it. When it comes to going for it or kicking the field goal, the worst case scenario is also better in the option where you go for it. Go for it, and you either win the game or the Jets start at the 17. Kick the field goal, and you either put your defense back on the field without the guarantee of winning, or the Jets start at the 25. How can you possibly kick the field goal knowing that? If there are 2 options, and one option gives you a better best case scenario and a better worst case scenario, and both options have about the same chance at success, with the first option possibly even having a better chance of success than the second, how can you possibly take the second option? How can you possibly do that? Brian Daboll, this man right here, what the heck are you doing? And I know he can try and justify it all he wants. As he said after the game, kick a field goal there, and they have 24 seconds left with no timeouts, and they need a touchdown. Making the field goal, then they'd have 24 seconds with no timeouts, and they'd have to drive the length, and our defense was playing really well the whole game. That's why I made the decision. But again, can you really trust Graham Gano? Hitting about 60% on the season from 30 plus, injured beyond belief, and struggling in this game already with the worst possible weather conditions for a kicker to do that? Is this really worth the risk? Is this really a good idea? I don't think it is. I honestly can't tell you that it is. And again, it's not one of those things that look bad in hindsight. Considering everything that we knew, this looked bad from the start. It just got amplified by a million when the kick was missed and the Jets drove down the field. But this was the wrong decision, point blank. The crazy part in all of this is have the Giants done the right thing and gone for it against this team right here. As crazy as it sounds, we're talking about them in the playoff race. No, I'm not kidding. The 7th seed right now is 500, and the race is a complete dumpster fire right now. Minnesota is probably the best team, and they're the favorite from the number 7 seed, but that's gone out the window now that Kirk Cousins is probably out for the season. So who knows what happens there at quarterback. If the Giants won this game and did the right thing, they're at 3-5. They're a game out, and who knows? Anything can happen. But instead, they managed to choke this one away in one of the worst ways possible. I mean, my God, Brian Dable, this was really, really bad. So what do we learn from all of this? If your kicker is injured, maybe don't rely on him if you don't have to. If your kicker is terrible, maybe don't rely on him if you don't have to. If your kicker is not needed, because all you need is one freaking yard and you win the ball game, maybe don't rely on him if you don't have to. If your kicker is not needed, because the spot with a miss would be worse than the spot with a failed fourth down conversion, and by a significant amount I might add, maybe don't rely on him if you don't have to. If your kicker has already missed once in the game, and the weather is brutal, maybe don't rely on him if you don't have to. And if you have a chance to not use your kicker, because you can win the game on a play that has a better chance of succeeding, and has a better best case and worst case scenario regardless of the outcome, maybe don't rely on him if you don't have to. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.